What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm very excited to finally share with you guys my recipe for cassava pone. For any of you guys that do not know what this is, it's basically grated cassava or yuca that's mixed with a bunch of other ingredients and it is baked. It's almost like a baked pudding and it's really delicious and something that I feel is much better homemade than it is when you buy it from one of the West Indian bakeries. So this recipe is being sponsored by Videsi Imports. Thank you Andrew for sending me these awesome ingredients and flavorings. So let's get into the ingredients. What I have here is some grated cassava or yuca, and it's been grated on the finest side of my grater so it could be very small in texture. I also have some vanilla essence or mixed essence. I have a condensed milk, some nutmeg, some ground ginger, some black pepper, as well as some coconut milk. So just as with all of my recipes, I'll have the ingredients and measurements in the description box down below. Now I wanted to mention this is just one variation that I have for cassava pone. My grandmother and we make it one of two ways, and this is one of the ways. The other way that we make it actually uses the freshly grated coconut inside of the mixture versus just the coconut milk. So I'll be sharing that version at a later time, but this is just a version that I'm sharing now. So the first step when making your cassava pone is to go ahead and prepare the cassava or the yuca. What you want to do is get the whole cassava, you want to peel it, and then you want to grate it on the finest side of your grater. And as you guys can see here, I have a very fine mashed mixture after I finished grating it. Now, once you do that, we're going to start adding all of the flavoring agents. So over here, I am going on with some freshly grated nutmeg. If you didn't have the fresh nutmeg, you could go ahead and use the powdered version as well. Once you've gone in with all of that freshly grated nutmeg, it's time to go in with your ground ginger. I'm using the dried powdered ginger, but if you wanted to, feel free to use freshly grated ginger. And also I'm going in with the black pepper. Now black pepper might seem a little weird to be in a dessert, but I promise you cassava pone needs to be a little spicy. And we went in with that mixed essence. And of course, I will be putting my ingredients and my measurements in the description box down below, but as far as all of the spices and the flavoring agents, feel free to add as much or as little as you would like to make it to your taste. And at this point, I'm also going in with all of the coconut milk on top of this mixture. And once you go in with all of your coconut milk, it is time to go in with some condensed milk. Now what the condensed milk does versus adding just plain sugar is that it gives it an extra creaminess, an extra richness, as well as the sweetness that we're going to need. That's why I prefer to use that over plain brown sugar or white sugar. Now, in this recipe, as you guys can see, I am not adding freshly grated coconut. I know I'm going to get a lot of comments telling me that I made it the wrong way because I did not use freshly grated coconut. The thing is, this is just one of the ways that I make it. My grandmother does make it with the freshly grated coconut as well. I'm going to show you guys different versions as time goes on, but just letting you know, this is the way that I'm making this one. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and add in about a half a cup of freshly grated coconut, and you could still use the coconut milk, or you could replace that coconut milk with some evaporated milk or even whole milk. It doesn't have to be coconut milk. Some people also even make it with water. I'm not really a fan of that because it's not very rich at all. It doesn't give it a great taste. But if you prefer that, feel free to do so as well. And although I added in the condensed milk, I am also going to go ahead and add in some brown sugar. What this brown sugar does is it also allows the cassava pone to get a nice little golden color when it's done baking. That's why I like to add it. But if you wanted to, feel free to just add the condensed milk. You could also feel free to just add sugar if you wanted to. This recipe is very forgiving, and although I'm giving you guys my measurements, feel free to play around with them, and I promise you your cassava pone will come out perfect. So you're just going to mix that sugar in really well as with all of the other ingredients, and then I'm going to show you guys what it looks like before we stick it in the oven. Alright guys, so this is what my mixture looks like before it's about to go into the oven. As you guys can see, we see all of those nice little brown and black specks of the spices and the flavorings that we added in, and it's nice and runny. You do not want it to be too thick because when it's too thick, I feel the cassava pone comes out too heavy and too dry. Alright guys, so once you finish mixing your batter very thoroughly and you get everything well incorporated, you want to go ahead and just give it a little taste. Just take a little dab of it and taste it, and just make sure it has enough sweetness and make sure it has enough spice as per your taste. Once you do that and you're happy with it, you're going to go into your baking tray, and you want to make sure that you butter your baking tray really well with either some cooking spray or some butter. I prefer the butter because I find that it gives it a crispier edge, and it also adds a nice little buttery taste to the cassava pone. Now, the type of pan that you use also depends on how thick you like your cassava pone. I like mine on the thinner side, so I use a 9 by 13 inch pan, but if you want it thicker, use a smaller pan. Alright guys, so I just pulled my cassava pone out of the oven, and as you guys can see, it is beautiful and golden brown on the top, and the sides are beautiful and golden brown and crispy as well. So this was baking in the oven at 350 degrees for about 35 minutes. Now the time is going to range for everybody depending on how thick you make it and depending on the climate, because sometimes when you add all of the ingredients it tends to be a little more wet and it'll take more time to bake. So mine took about 35 minutes. If you make it thinner than mine, it could take about 25 minutes, and if you make it thicker, it could take even up to an hour. So you just want to make sure to gauge it. The way that you know it's done is once it firms up on the top. When you touch it, it's very firm and springy, and you're going to see all of the sides, and the top is beautiful and golden brown. So at this point, I'm going to allow it to cool for about 25 to 30 minutes. The reason you want to do this is because if you were to cut into it now, you're not going to get clean slices. Now, by all means, if you are in a rush and you just want to eat it right away, feel free to do so. But I like to let it cool a little bit more because I like to get those clean-cut edges on my cassava pone. So I'm going to come back and show you guys what it looks like when I cut into it. Alright everyone, this is what the finished cassava pone looks like. Now me, I am an end person because I love those brown crispy edges. But let me know in the comment section below, do you prefer the gooey middle or do you prefer the crispy edge part? So I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. It's been requested for a while, so I hope everyone gets into their kitchen and gives it a try. And of course, from my kitchen to yours, I hope you enjoy it. Please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed yet, and of course, leave your beautiful comments down below. I'll see you guys again very soon.